hours and hours just to enjoy the experience. Now, what's interesting is the case of the factory, you're paying these people to do relatively mundane, boring things of factory work. But in the case of a theme park, they're actually paying you to stand in line for hours just to enjoy those few minutes of fun. Now, the reason why we call this gamification is because I believe the gaming industry is the first to master human-focused design. Because there's no real purpose to playing a game, right? You never have to play a game. You know, you have to do your taxes, do your training, sign up to this stuff, exercise, and even if you don't like it, you just have to suck it up and do it. But again, for a game, you never have to play a game. The moment a game is no longer fun, you leave the game. You play another game, you go to YouTube, you check your email. And so because the games industry has spent decades or even centuries, depending on how you qualify a game, figuring out how to come back to games for 5, 6, 7 hours every day, doing repetitive actions like throwing out a bird, throwing out a bird, throwing out a bird, or matching through gens, matching 3 gens, matching 3 gens. When there's no mandated purpose, we're now learning from that discipline. And that's why we call it gamification. And so one of my most well-known works in the industry, I guess the well-known work is this thing called the octalysis framework. So it's called the octalysis because it's analysis based on an octagon shape. So over the years, I started way long ago, but I was very blessed and lucky that suddenly this became an industry a lot of companies and people cared about. But then there's a lot of people who came out and they don't understand the core of gamification. They do what we call PBLs, points, badges, and leaderboards. And they think, hey, if we just add points to this thing, leaderboards to the thing, it'll be fun. To a greater extent, that's the same attitude for something called game mechanics, game design elements, like narratives, like quests, leveling up. Oh, if there's a leveling up, it's fun. But if you think about it, every single game in the market has game elements in them, right? But most games are not successful. Most games are not fun, and they're failures. So it's really naive to think that, hey, if I just take these game elements, points, badges, leveling up, leaderboards, that are even found in boring games, and put it to my product, my workshop, my workplace, it automatically becomes fun and successful. That just doesn't happen, right? Only a few well-designed games becomes very successful. So I started spending many years discovering why successful games are successful. And I like to study games that are very similar to each other. Sometimes one is just a clone, a copycat of the other. And so I want to understand why that is. So I noticed a few things. Number one, it's not because one game has game elements and the other doesn't, right? The copycats both have leveling up, unlock skills, whatever, but one's a success, one's a failure. I also noticed it's not because of the graphics. Sometimes the visually stunning game is a huge failure, and the relatively ugly game, like for instance Minecraft or RuneScape, low definition graphics, becomes massively successful. So after all the research, I realized that all the successful games have now what I call 8 core drives of motivation. So I published this framework, Octalysis, on my blog, and it quickly got picked up. So in a few months, it was translated to 18 different languages, and that's how I started to get the opportunity. So on this chart, inside, those are the 8 core drives that motivate us. Outside, it's hard to see, but those are the small details about different game design techniques that can bring out those core drives. Now, what's interesting about those 8 core drives is that every single thing we do is based on one or more of these 8 core drives, which means that if there's none of these 8 core drives there, there's zero motivation. No behavior happens. Each and one of you here because of at least one of those 8 core drives. Some people are here because of core drive 7, unpredictability and curiosity. Oh, I'm curious about this topic, and let me just show up and see what it is. Some people are here because of core drive 5, social influence and relatedness. So it's like, oh, a friend invited me, so that's why I showed up. Some people are here potentially because of core drive 2, development and accomplishment, which is, oh, I want to improve my skills, I want to level up, I want to do my job better. Occasionally we have people with epic meaning and calling, which is, oh, I believe gamification of blockchain is the future. I want to be part of this bigger picture. When I do these company workshops, a lot of people, I believe, are there because of core drive 8, loss and avoidance. Oh, I don't want to get fired, so I show up. I don't think that's any of you. And then occasionally it's what we call core drive 6, scarcity and impatience. This speaker is only in this country once a year, so it's a very scarce opportunity. I better reprioritize my schedule. But again, everything we do is based on these 8 core drives. If there's none of them are there, no one shows up, your customers aren't buying, your coworkers aren't working, nothing happens without those core drives. So I'll do a quick brief view of those 8 core drives, and then we'll talk about the different natures of those core drives. Some are what we call white hat core drives. It makes people feel they feel good, powerful, they feel in control. but there's no sense of urgency. And there's what we call black hat core drives that make people feel urgent, obsessed, even addicted. But in the long run, if that was the only motivator, it leaves a bad taste in their mouths because they feel like they're not in control of their own behavior. So just to preview, the first one is called epic meaning and calling. So this is basically saying we're motivated because we feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And in a game, you often see this theme, right? It's like, oh, the world's about to end, but somehow you're the only person qualified to save the world. It's very motivating. It's like, yeah, I gotta do it. It's such an epic mission. And this is, for instance, why I believe people contribute to Wikipedia. We all know that people don't make money when they contribute to Wikipedia, right? But they don't even update their resumes or advance their careers. People contribute to Wikipedia because they believe they're protecting humanity's knowledge, something bigger than themselves. Core drive 2 is development and accomplishment. So this is the drive that's basically saying we're motivated because we're leveling up, we're improving ourselves, we're achieving mastery. And most of the points and badges fall into this core drive. Points are just counters, mathematical counters really. It shows a sense of progression. So even though you're doing the same things over and over and over again, hey, at least you see this number going bigger and bigger, or this progress we're moving, and you feel like you're getting somewhere. Badges are what we call achievement symbols. And achievement symbols can be in many different forms. It could be badges, trophies, white belt, black belt for martial arts. It could be crowns. The key is that it must symbolize an accomplishment. If you give people badges for every silly thing they do, then it's almost insulting to them. So when you think about badges, you want to think about, would this person want to brag about this badge, or would they think it's really, really silly? So core drive 3 is empowerment of creativity and feedback. So this is kind of like Lego. You give users the basic building blocks, and there's infinite amount of ways for them to use their creativity, try different strategies, see feedback, and then go back and adjust. And that's a very engaging process. By the way, for those who are confused, if you Google gamification framework, this should be the first result, so you can see a bigger view on it. So you can see that later on. You see this is on the right top of the octagon, which means it's white hat and intrinsic. And so every single timeless game has this core drive. You look at chess, you look at poker, mahjong, and this is what we call evergreen. So if you look at chess, right? Very simple game, 64 squares, 32 pieces, and people have been playing for centuries, but it's still fun today, right? Chess does not have to be like every week, hey, here's a new piece, here's a new board, here's a new hero. It doesn't have to keep adding new content to engage us, right? Because our brains are entertaining itself. It's like being an inventor or a scientist, lifelong experimentation. Whereas some other games that use other core drives, they have to, every week they need a new mission, or else people get bored and they leave. So that's the core drive 3 empowerment. Core drive 4, ownership possession. So that's basically saying, because we feel like we own something, we want to improve it, we want to protect it, and we want to get more of it. So that's like virtual goods, virtual currencies. It's also the drive that makes us want to collect stamps or baseball cards. And sometimes there's a more abstract sense, which is if we spend a lot of time customizing our Dropbox folder or Facebook profile, or a system constantly learning about what we like and really changing its behavior to meet our needs, then we have more attachment to it, hence more ownership. And even if a new technology comes out that's better, supposedly, we don't want to switch because it's like, oh, but this is my system, this one understands me. And so that's the ownership core drive. Core drive 5 is social influence and relatedness. So this is everything we do based on what other people do, think, or say. So this deals with things like competition, collaboration, group quests, gifting, but it also has this relatedness piece, which is something like nostalgia. Like if you see a product that reminds you of your childhood, you automatically have a higher chance of buying this product. If you meet someone from the same hometown, you have a higher chance of striking up a deal with that person, assuming you're traveling abroad. And core drive 6, it says scarcity and impatience. So this is basically saying we want something simply because we can't have it, or it's very difficult to obtain. So if grapes are on the table, we don't really care about those grapes. We might eat a few because it's convenient, but we don't value them. But if they're locked behind a glass shelf just beyond our reach with lots of chains and locks around it, now we're always thinking about those grapes. It's like, why is it behind? Why are there locks? Why is it locked up? Can I have it? When can I have it? Are they sweet? And so this is a core drive that Facebook used when it first started. At the beginning, Facebook said, thefacebook.com is only for Harvard students. If you didn't go to Harvard University, too bad, you can't use Facebook. And then it says, well, Facebook is for Harvard students, some Ivy League schools, and some other schools that your high school buddies got in, but you were not smart enough to get in. Too bad. And then it opened up to more and more schools. So in 2004, when Facebook opened to UCLA, where I was attending, everyone rushed in. Not because they already knew how great Facebook was, right? Because no one has used Facebook before, but that sheer exclusivity alone created that motivation. You're not allowed to do it? Okay, fine, you're allowed to do it. And this is very important for Facebook, because if people just join slowly, you go, you sign up, and it's like, oh, I don't see any people I know in my school. You leave, right? This only works when at the same time everyone rushes in, and like, oh, look, all my friends are here. Yay, this is the party. And then everyone stays at Facebook. So that was very important for their launch strategy. This is also a strategy that a lot of social mobile games use to monetize on. So sometimes you'll go into a game like Farmville, and you'll say like, oh, this game is kind of fun, but I'll never spend real money on a stupid game like this. And then Farmville starts to dangle this mansion in front of your face, and like, this mansion's kind of cool. Let me see what I need to do to get it. Oh man, I need to do 40 more hours of farming to be able to afford this mansion. That's a lot of farming, right? Oh, but wait, I just have to spend $10 and I get the mansion immediately. $10 to save 40 hours of my time, that's a no-brainer, right? And so suddenly, you're no longer spending $10 to buy some worthless pixels on your screen, you're spending $10 to save a lot of your time, which is a worthy transaction because you're a smart and savvy professional that values your time. So you can see how a lot of these game systems kind of alter our value systems and make us think differently. Core drive 7 is unpredictability and curiosity. So this is the drive that says, because we don't know what's going to happen next, we're always thinking about it. So this heavily deals with the gambling industry, but whenever you have a sweepstakes system, a lottery program, a raffle ticket system, we have this core drive. It's also the drive that makes us want to finish a book or a movie, which is why we don't like spoilers, right? Don't tell me how it ends. And there's a lot of scientific research behind this core drive. The most famous one is called the Skinner box. So scientists, B.F. Skinner, put rats and pigeons in a box, and inside the box there's a lever. So the first experiment is that whenever the animal presses the lever, food comes out. And what you'll see there is that the animal will press the lever until it's no longer hungry because it doesn't need food anymore. It makes sense. But when they switch the experiment to the point where whenever the animal presses the lever, food may or may not come out, and sometimes two come out. What you'll see is the animal constantly pressing the lever, regardless if it's hungry or not, because it's just messing with its brain. Will it come out? Will it come out? And there you have a little bit of gambling addiction right there in the little Skinner box. And so core drive 8 is loss and avoidance. So this is straightforward. We're doing something to avoid a loss. We don't want something bad to happen. It's the fear core drive, and it's pretty straightforward. But so again, those are the 8 core drives. Again, everything we do is based on those core drives, and if none of them are there, no behavior happens. But it's on an octagon shape for a reason. We talked about it a little bit. The top ones are what we call white hat core drives. Again, they make people feel powerful, in control, they feel good, but there's no sense of urgency. If you're doing something because you feel like a part of something bigger than yourself, you're changing the world, you're pursuing your faith, and you're doing something because you're achieving mastery, improving yourself, and using creativity, it feels good, right? So it's like, yay, I'm so happy, but there's no urgency, so you kind of procrastinate. The bottom ones are black hat core drives. So if everything you're doing is just because you don't want to lose something, just because you can't have something, or just because you don't know what's going to happen next, it's still extremely powerful in driving our motivation and behavior, but because we don't feel like we're in control, if that was long-term only motivator, we burn out and we feel like, oh, this feels bad. Now, then we have the left versus right side. The left side, I call them left brain core drives. And it doesn't mean it's geographically on the left side of the brain, but it symbolically represents the logical brain versus the right brain core drive that symbolically represents the emotional brain. Now what's interesting is the left brain core drives deal with extrinsic motivation. Things you do for a reward, a purpose, or a goal. But you don't necessarily enjoy the activity itself. So once you obtain the reward, you hit your goals, or you just get used to the reward. You stop doing the activity. But the right brain core drives are focused on intrinsic motivation. So these are things that you enjoy doing so much that you're willing to pay money just to experience. And even if the next day you lost all your progress, you would still, play a basketball game with your friend today. You would still hang out. These are things that are intrinsic. So, and then besides the white hat, black hat, so a lot of people think, okay, black hat must be evil, it's bad. But that's not necessarily the case. So a lot of people voluntarily put themselves in black hat motivation in order to go to the gym more often or eat more healthily This is why, for instance, people pay a gym trainer to call them a loser, right? When he calls you a loser, it doesn't feel good, but later you thank him. He's like, thank you for pushing me so hard for a goal I want. There's this funny alarm clock where when you press the snooze button, the wake me up 10 minutes later button, it destroys your money, it takes away your money. And so it's black hat, right? It's loss and avoidance. You're waking up because of the black hat motivation, but you're okay with it because it's a goal you want to accomplish. You want to wake up. And what people don't like is when companies, marketers, employers, governments, educators use a lot of black hat to get people to buy things they don't need, work overtime without compensation, get manipulated. And a lot of them will still take the action, but in the long run, they will burn out. They don't feel good about it. And so, for instance, you look at a company like Zynga. The biggest mistake Zynga made is they focus too much on black hat motivation. And they don't think about it as black hat because they don't have the framework. They consider data-driven design. And the key is that because black hat drives urgency, whenever you're too data-driven, you're always going to be more black hat, right? Yep. You're always going to be more black hat. So it's like, hey, look, we just put a torture brake on, and then suddenly, oh, everyone's coming back 10 times a day, spending a lot of money. Let's do more of that. And so the consequence of the design is, in the short run, all their metrics look great. Monetization, virality, retention, all that stuff is great. But in the long run, because people don't feel good when they play Zynga games, when they can't escape the game, they will want to. And quitting a Zynga game oftentimes is like the happiest day of their lives. Like, oh, I finally escaped the devil. So the key is there's a lot more advanced stuff. You're supplying this to 4 phases, of a player's journey: discovery phase, onboarding, scout, and endgame. You can analyze different experiences, but the core of Octalysis is really saying, when you want to gamify something, don't just make it look like a game. Don't just say, let's just add game elements, because the key is that you want to have those core drivers, right? You can have a badge system that people don't feel accomplished. You could have some kind of surprising event, but they don't, in their perception, they don't know it's random, so there's no unpredictability. There's maybe some things are scarce, but in their mind, they don't know there's scarcity. So the key is, an experience is not successful because of game elements, but it's because how you pull out those 8 core drives. So think about these 8 core drives. Think about how it engages our brain. You don't need to look pretty. You just need to attract our brain and engage in deeper experiences. So again, there's a lot more, but with the limited time that I need to catch a plane, I will conclude here. But thank you for listening to this. Thank you.
Ребята, большое спасибо, что пригласили, мы правда должны бежать, надеюсь, что вам было интересно, да, поэтому вам аплодисменты на дальнейшую сессию, давайте пока. Okay, now we go because we
А можно за Facebook позадавать еще вопросы?
He asks if he can you in Facebook and ask some questions.
Sure. I might be very slow in responding though, but you can ask, you can add.
Вы можете здесь вопрос задавать в группе, мы там завтра ответим, потому что сейчас улетит человек, мы там что-нибудь ответим завтра. Okay, so now we go back.
Okay.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. After it, I have some new ideas.
Yeah. I have a lot of content online, so you can check them out. YouTube also.
Yeah. Это все бесплатное обучение, если кому-то интересно, это школа Octalysis, заходите на сайт на английском, главное знать английский, это бесплатная вещь абсолютно. Там есть куча платных штук, но не для этого приехали. Спасибо тебе большое.
Спасибо огромное, что привели к нам такого прекрасного докладчика с такой интересной темой и так хорошо рассказывающего. Сейчас у нас будет небольшой перерыв технический, и после этого технического перерыва мы продолжим. Давайте я потом это провожу, попрощаюсь с вами. Дорогие друзья, у нас здесь есть чай, кофе, вкусняшки по вегану. Угощайтесь, пожалуйста, пока у нас идет технический перерыв. Первое выступление у нас сегодня не было изначально запланировано. К нам абсолютно случайно попал геймификатор мирового уровня. И вообще, конечно, очень здорово, что он попал. Очень жалко, что мы смогли об этом предупредить только сегодня всех, потому что мы узнали только сегодня об этом. Но дальше мы продолжим говорить об эволюции, куда все это катится и где мы все окажемся.
Да, есть звукач.
Ну, Степа у вас хорошо тоже сделал, Степа волосатый. Да, да, он тоже нормально. Да, да,
This is Michaela, and you're rocking with me on Party Vibe Radio.
Мне понравилось, почему, значит, меня не встречалась.
Leave my earth alone. I'm about to not that you were around when you come around. So leave my earth alone. Cause if I can't do it when it's okay in the road. And if you can't stick on the same road, then get ready. Why you wanna stop my natural high? It's like a record, I just got control.
Мы построим робот, или мы научимся сказать на холоде, использовать технологии для того, чтобы изучать
Вот у нас был отличный лектор из Соединенных Штатов Ю Кай Чоу, говорил о геймификации. Если вы не знаете английского, очень жаль. Если знаете, отлично. Сейчас продолжим дальше. Будем говорить об эволюции, о том, что нас ждет впереди. Сейчас продолжим.